Hello, everyone, and welcome to Grow With Us. My name is Evan Barton, and I'm your host who helps create conversations with the innovators and leaders of a growing tech center in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The Grow With Us podcast highlights in-Tulsa talents work, bridging Tulsa talent with tech opportunities and the revolutionary work around the city. In-Tulsa's mission is to connect talented individuals and companies to stimulate economic growth in Tulsa and to create more prosperous communities across the region. Each episode, Grow With Us discusses the growth of opportunities, the growth of communities striving for change, or the tech and innovation that is changing the landscape of Tulsa. On this episode of Grow With Us, we're in conversation with Luke Scuitto, Membership Coordinator at the Dennis R. Equality Center. We discuss Luke's involvement in programming events for the Equality Business Alliance, different programs available to folks in the queer community, and the ways to serve locally in LGBTQIA+ spaces. Luke, it's so great to have you on. I'm super excited for this episode.
No, likewise. Really excited to chat, share a little bit more about what's going on at the Equality Center, and just learn more what's going on with you all.
Yeah, I think we have really, well, at least in my world, we have I would just say I am very invested in the work that the Equality Center is doing. Everyone on this podcast knows I'm a part of the LGBT community, so I'm really excited to kind of share that information and talk through how, I navigate this space, and then also like the spaces that are available to everyone here in the Tulsa community. So I'm really excited to get started. Go ahead and introduce yourself in kind of whatever way you feel comfortable. Tell us your story.
Yeah, totally. Well, first of all, I'm excited to have the space today to talk more about what's going on at the Equality Center and kind of my origins with it. I moved to Tulsa about 2 years ago from Washington, D.C., and working in LGBT centers has been something ever since I graduated college that I've been really invested in. I started out at the D.C. Center for the LGBT community on their board of directors. And as soon as I made the transition to Tulsa, I knew that I wanted to be involved in the local, LGBT scene and see how I could support the center. And so something that I really love about all the LGBT centers are they're connected, everyone knows everyone. And so when I came to Tulsa and had a conversation at OKEQ, there was that instant connection with what was going on at the DC Center. And I just, knew I would really want to be involved. And so that's kind of how I got a little bit more anchored in Tulsa. But I've always, ever since I was little, I've moved around a lot. I was born in California, spent a lot of time in Texas, and then, as I mentioned, moved to DC. So really, I was excited to try out, a little bit of a smaller city. I had lived in Los Angeles, San Antonio, those million+ places. And so Tulsa wasn't on my radar before, but I'm so glad that through Tulsa Remote, it gave me that opportunity to really see what a unique, what a thriving, and especially, innovative queer scene and community there is. And so being a part of OKEQ has been incredible. And especially, through the last couple of years as I get acclimated in Tulsa.
That's amazing. I love hearing that. Especially, I really like hearing too about a lot like queer people coming to town and experiencing Tulsa for the first time too. Cause like I guess was a baby queer person whenever I came out of the closet at 15 or whatever. And so kind of that was here in Tulsa. And so kind of navigating, this space, this landscape, and really this even political environment. I mean, I definitely think you have to throw that in there when you're considering navigating these spaces, especially as a queer person. It's something to take into consideration. And so I'm glad that, nothing scared you off when you came.
Yeah, what I love too, and I think this could have been, obviously Texas is a lot different, but I think that geographic similarity or growing up somewhat adjacent, I wanted to dive more in this region. I wanted to think more about especially how I can be supportive of, my fellow community members. And something I was really impressed about in Tulsa with the Equality Center and just the community in general was how involved folks were. Again, the DC Center, had less programming, even though it was a much bigger city. So I was really impressed to see the depth and breadth in Tulsa, how large the physical space of the Equality Center was, but not just the physical, but really to see the different programming that was going on, the different engaged constituents. So it was really refreshing and surprised me in the best of ways to be able to come to Tulsa and see that this was here, it was thriving, and there was that space for me to be a part of it, learn more, and grow. So that's been the highlight for sure, is kind of being surprised pleasantly and seeing just how much was going on. So
that's awesome. No, and I'll also attest to that, and the fact that, as I was navigating, being queer as a high school or whatever, the Equality Center was the first thing on my radar. Through our high school's GSA, there were people. We always got invites to the Equality Gala in high school, which was so fun, and really, like, I think it might have been the first place I had seen a drag queen live. Like, these are like, and that opportunity happened through the Equality Center. So it's always kind of been a part of my Tulsa-based queer experience, which is really, really powerful. And I'm kind of glad to know that I'm a part of this community. I've never felt separate from it at all as I've been here. I've had so many conversations with people that come from places that don't have equality centers, and we have a really great regional one. So I'm so glad we're getting to talk about it and hear from someone super involved in the programming. So thanks for being here again.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think one other thing I just wanted to underscore with it is, so I think with Tulsa and the political climate, I think it also, makes that call of having a larger equality center, more resources. There's a lot more that needs to be done here, and the team coming together, assembling that. And so I think that's the other thing to take into consideration too, is with, the divisiveness going on. It's great to see that through that all, there is such a rich community here, and there is such a support and network. And so I'm excited to see that grow, excited to amplify it here today. And again, appreciate that space.
Of course. Kind of related to, the work and being in Tulsa, I'd love to kind of hear how your personal relationship with Tulsa has changed over time.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I moved here in August of 2020, like I said, through the Tulsa Remote program, kind of having, minimal expectations, not thinking too much about it. I did a visit, I guess, a month earlier in typical, fashion. I moved to DC without really checking things out. I kind of jumped the gun here. I think that's always been my life, nomadic growing up with my family, not having a choice, and then with my own choice, just moving here on a whim. But I was definitely, longing for a change. I had been in DC 6 years, and through COVID and just through the intensity through various elections, it really started to take a toll. And I was excited to check something else out. And so when I got into the Tulsa Remote program and moved here, again, I was just really thinking about making a change and having minimal expectations, because I've always found that's been helpful in my personal journey. And so from August 2020 to, now, as we think about 2022, there's just been so much personal growth that I've gone through since I've been here. And then also ways that I feel like I've been able to contribute and learn from the community here. And so I'd say probably one of the biggest changes is my involvement with the Equality Center. So I actually started as a volunteer in late 2020 as I started to get my bearings here. And so it was so great to just invest in that way first, understand the staff, understand who came to the center, who we were supporting. And so as I kind of got the hang of things, I had a really great conversation with the team, and we were able to create a role that kind of was able to kind of flex on my expertise that I work on day to day in partnerships and program development. And so that kind of launched my work at the Equality Center in February of 2021. So I'd say the most kind of profound changes and impacts have been my investment and involvement with the Equality Center, and then also my admiration for Tulsa, local business, really understanding entrepreneurship here, getting to know how businesses operate, meeting the owners of restaurants, understanding their creative process and flow. That's just something I never had the opportunity to do in DC, or the privilege. And I think the environment that's created in, I would say maybe medium-sized cities like Tulsa is that intimacy. Folks actually want to support local business, show up for the opening of something new. And so I think that's also been one of the biggest changes is my investment in local community endeavors, supporting whatever is going on. And I've really appreciated the friend circle that I've created, both with the remote folks, but then also so many local friends as well, that it's been just incredible to get invested and involved here, both on the professional side and then on the personal side. So I would say those have been the most profound changes, impacts for me since I've been here.
That's awesome. I love hearing kind of that perspective on, getting acquainted with entrepreneurship, not only through your work, but also just like as a queer person. I think it's interesting that, or at least for me, I honestly do feel like every space that I go into, either I make it queer or I think about how I'm going to be perceived because I'm queer. And I don't know. I just think that that's such an important thing to consider. And it's good to take up space. It's good to be someone that has you just have those places where you go in cities where it's like, oh, you're going to be treated a certain way because you've met with the business owner, or what the type of crowd is that's there. Like, honestly, that's a huge thing for me, just in terms of going out and being comfortable in a city. I'm proud to say that there really aren't a lot of places in Tulsa where I'm like, oh, I don't go there because like they're not nice to queer people, or that they're going to call something's going to happen there. I'm not very fearful of that. Whereas in larger cities, the possibility of that happening can be sometimes more, or even concentrated to a specific area. And so I think kind of putting in that legwork, not only through your professional work, but also just personally exploring the city, it's a great kind of exercise in creating comfortability.
Yeah, and I think I kind of have a couple stories there of, thinking about local business here and especially queer business owners. It's been one of the most affirming things for me because, again, as I've said, minimal expectations coming here. I didn't know if there were any, local queer business owners, or where were they on the map? Like, how were they represented? And I was just so excited through my work at OKQ, and then also just personally meeting with several, restaurateurs that are in the community and seeing, them landing on, James Beard national spotlights, seeing them land in regional, spotlights. It's just been incredible to see not just their local impact, which is incredibly invaluable, but then also that national reach, us feeling on the map here represented, and especially folks nationally to really know and understand that Tulsa has a vibrant queer scene that's blossoming, that's entrepreneurial. And so meeting different, restaurateurs, other business owners has just been so inspiring for me as I think about my own path and ways that I can support those folks and, think about my own future endeavors. But that actually really helped me solidify staying here. It helped me feel like this is a place where I can grow those roots. And so that's just been another huge reason for me wanting to, further invest here and be a part of the community.
Yeah, I love that. Well, we're glad to continue to have you. So kind of just talking about the work, it makes me want to know more from you, and I definitely know that our audience would love to know more about the Equality Center. So kind of tell us more about the Dennis R. Neal Equality Center and your role there. With the role that you created for yourself, which is also amazing, and props to you.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's been such a great journey, especially having that volunteer perspective, which, fun fact, through the Equality Center, there have been so many folks that started out as just constituents themselves, then volunteers, and then kind of making that investment grow with being on the staff. So I think it's created a unique community there of folks that have seen it from all sides. So I really love that perspective of and trajectory of folks that start out as constituents, grow to volunteering, and then become staff members. I think it makes a really unique and exciting group of people. And so I think something really unique about the Equality Center in Tulsa versus others, again, with my experience in DC and just supporting other groups, it's been really incredible to see the depth and breadth of programming that happens here, especially in Tulsa. I had no idea that there would be a health clinic, mental health counseling, an art gallery. I mean, just a myriad of different programs. And especially with such a small staff, I am on a nonprofit in my kind of full-time day to day. And I'm always just so impressed by, a small and mighty team and what they're able to accomplish. So I have just the utmost respect for, any small team and what they can do. And so I really, something that appealed to me when I first started was beyond just the general programming, the passion that I saw from other staff members, the passion I saw from volunteers and the board. Folks are really bought into the mission. They have their own stories that just are incredibly impactful, emotional. I think that's something that, swayed me in the beginning. Living in DC, living in LA, these big cities, I never truly thought about the impact of, rural populations and being queer and what that could look like, or seeing, the impact and learning from youth in the programs at the Equality Center who would drive for hours from rural Oklahoma to come to programming, and just the smiles on their faces, the way that the Equality Center has changed their lives was really an emotional experience for me, and kind of challenging at times when I thought back on my own life growing up and not having this space in the same way. And I'm just so excited for where we are now, and for future kids as well, what these programs can mean, what they've done. But then also it makes us think of a call to action. How can we make sure folks don't also have to drive so many hours? As inspiring as that is, how can we make sure that there's local programs as well? So recently, OKEQ has continued to bolster and develop a myriad of different chapters across the state. And so there's several kind of different outposts in Bartlesville, Muskogee, McAllister, and Tahlequah. And again, answering that call so folks don't have to drive, 3 hours, 2 hours to get those services. And so I think that's been so inspiring to see that OKEQ listens, that OKEQ is kind of solutions oriented, really thinking about where we need to grow those resources. But I can tell you those stories from those kids have just been so inspiring and remind me, we have a lot of work to do. We can celebrate the wins, which helps us, continue the momentum, but there's always more to be done. So I appreciate that outlook that OKEQ has consistently.
Yeah, no, that was amazing, and I think you hit the nail on the head with kind of just the expansion, the outreach of the programming is so important, because I think about it often how, like, I didn't live in Tulsa until I was like 10 years old. So if I had never moved to Tulsa, obviously it wasn't my choice at the time, but if I hadn't moved, like, I don't know if I would have gone to a high school that had a GSA, and it probably wouldn't.
Right.
Well, but I would have been in Muskogee. And so maybe if I would have been growing up now, then the answer to that is yes, which is awesome. That means that you guys have, like you said, listened and adjusted. And I do think it's so important that, Oklahomans, and especially the Oklahomans that are in these urban areas, like, do not discount the rural experience.
Mhm.
I think it's so just important to consider the fact that our queer community members are not the queer communities that are the closest to us. If we're going to be in this together, we need to be in this together, and not sectioning each other off just because of proximity. I think that's just a really important message, and kind of something I experienced, like, going to college in like a more rural area. It felt like we created this like bubble community because that was all that there was. But then now I have close friends that live in the community, not necessarily as proximated to the university that we all went to. But they've been able to find that like community of queer people, or they've been able to create it themselves. And so I'm glad. I'm glad that the Equality Center is like kind of putting in that legwork to make that lift easier for those rural communities, because it's such a huge part of just our experience, and just how people can tap into queer communities.
Yeah, totally. And I think something that I really wanted to underscore with my work is just how important it is. We see the narratives on television in the queer community. A lot of the time it is in New York City or Los Angeles, these more urban settings. And I think that it's really important not to discount the experiences you were saying in a rural community in a, untraditional sense, that when we, think of the media and how we consume it with queer culture, I think there's such a vibrant, culture that is existing in the rural communities. I've met so many folks that have shared their stories, and I think it just reminds us, how can we be conscious of that? How can we make sure that we're always sharing that? And so through OKQ, I think it's been one of the biggest learnings for me in my time, and I'm excited to continue to share and advocate and figure out, other unique programs, other resources, ways that we can continue to advocate. So I appreciate that we can, really have that conversation today and really be thinking for the future.
100%. And I think, just to continue this conversation in a similar vein, I think another amazing program that the Equality Center is a part of is this Equality Business Alliance. So can you kind of go ahead and describe the purpose and the mission of that group?
Yeah, definitely. And I think I'll have the most robust answer for you here, just because that's my pride and joy and what I spend, my day to day on. So I'm really excited to share it and the trajectory and kind of the vision that we have. I think the big thing I wanted to mention about it is how invaluable and useful having an alliance is for folks that are new to town, for folks that have been around and want to see what new businesses are queer affirming and supportive. And so the Alliance is basically a directory of Tulsa and, Tulsa metro area businesses, anything from restaurants to yoga studios to therapists, that are affirming and not just accepting of the community, but loud and proud about how they come forward, how they love on our community, and how they uplift it. And I think that's something important too to remember, is that, there's one thing that when it comes to tolerance, but then there's another when it really comes to loving and accepting and embracing the queer community. And so that's been incredible to see with the Alliance. And the other incredible aspect has been the tremendous growth that we've seen in Alliance members. And so I took over about a year or so ago, and our big goal was thinking about what other businesses are left out on the Alliance. Where are the gaps? Where should we be, making sure to reach out to? Because it wasn't that other businesses weren't on yet; they just weren't aware of what was going on. And so I have to say that the feedback, the outreach efforts have been tremendous. So many folks have signed up. So many folks have re-engaged. We've had a lot of folks that we reached back out to renew their Alliance support and to kind of think about the future 2022, 2023. So it's been really exciting to see that growth, and also, other folks kind of reemerge. And so the main kind of theme around the Alliance is monthly mixers. And the onus on those mixers is actually the local businesses. So you really get to learn from, see the local businesses' venue and space, and then learn more about their mission and why they're a part of the Alliance. And so these monthly mixers are just such a great way, not only to meet that business that's hosting, but then a whole, swath of other new businesses that are joining for the first time that month, businesses that have been, a legacy and really created the Alliance. And so it's just such a great way to network, to be thinking about just partnership opportunities. It's been super cool to see Alliance members partner and collaborate on different projects, on different programs. And so that's been incredibly exciting. But folks can go to okq.org and find the Equality Business Alliance on there. And it's organized by, different industry type, different, organization type. And so folks have their, logo on there, their different contact information, and a, brief summary. And so it's been so exciting to see that growth, and exciting to see that folks want to network, want to share what they're doing. And I think it's just such a great tool when we think about who's new to Tulsa, who is thinking about where to go that night for dinner, for example, and put their money towards, queer, supportive, and championing businesses. So it's been really exciting to just see that growth.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I appreciate you sharing that. That was a great, robust answer. I want to just touch a little bit on kind of the impetus of the group really being about advocacy, and how it's not that, this is a group of businesses that, tolerate gay people. Like you said, it's not that. It's about, these are businesses that are, wanting to uplift LGBT members of the community, and also like do business with other queer folks in the community as well. So it's not only a source of customers or partnerships, like you said. It's like, these are people. This is a place of business that is not ever going to look at you differently for the because of your identity, in the way that you conduct business. So, and that's such a huge thing. I think that when I went to one of the mixers, I think a couple of months ago, and Toby was like, I love the way he communicates, honestly, because it's just so right to the point. But just talking about how I think that there are businesses that, if anyone, I've got like dip acrylic nails on right now, and so if like I was on a Zoom call or I went to a business meeting and someone was like not supportive or immediately clocked me as a queer person, there are places that would refuse, not necessarily refuse business, but like maybe they would, but they also would completely disregard me, or for some,
Mhm.
find some reason that my queer identity is not enough for, or is something that makes them uncomfortable. We could go on, in on this stuff, because it really grinds my gears about just equality and acceptance and all those things, as most gay people get really riled up about. But I mean, my main point is that it is just like so important for the existence of this program, just to know that there is this community of business owners that are not only standing up for this community, but also are like serving it and supporting it and donating and just creating opportunities. It's actually really important, and I don't think something that's ever going to go out of style as a community element. We need the community to stand up in this way, as I think a testament to its strength. So I really commend you for this work.
No, totally. And I appreciate that. And I think the thing I want to bring home that you've also underscored now is that this is much more than, slapping a sticker on their window and that they're, friendly or whatever it might be. It's invested folks, not just through money, investment through time, effort, collaboration. And one story I want to share that really takes that home is that we had a mixer couple of months ago, and a business told us, which honestly was probably one of the most inspiring and emotional things I've heard, is that because they were listed on the Equality Business Alliance, their child felt comfortable enough to come out to them, and it really moved me because it just really helped solidify this work is meaningful, it's needed, and it changed someone's life and made them feel like they could be comfortable enough to talk to their parents about their identity, about
Yeah.
one of the most important things for people. So that really made me feel so good about the work that's going on, and for that person, just how inspiring. So
I think that that's the tricky thing. I don't know if it's tricky, but just the little things when it comes to identity are so important. I mean, it feels like visibility, but it ends up being so much more than that. For that child, it was, yeah, my parent listed it publicly that they are going to support LGBT members of this community, and it might have sparked that moment of vulnerability for them, which is just amazing. So I love that story. I'm sure there's a million stories like that too, and I'm so glad that you all get to be a part of that work too. Um, so kind of additionally, let's talk a little bit about like an overview of the programs provided by the Equality Center. I know you've touched on a couple, like the Equality Business Alliance. We've got the clinic. What are some other ones that you'd like to highlight?
what I really like about the Equality Center and the programs is that there are so many different types to suit different needs, different creative expression, different outlets. And so for folks that are more artists, more on the creative side, more wanting to express themselves in that way, artists can submit to our art gallery. We have a monthly exhibition that showcases and highlights different artists. So that's an incredible way to really get involved there. We have a theater that has different performances for folks. to attend and be involved in. And then also on the advocacy side, there's a lot of great ways to stay up to date through OKAQ's policy and advocacy efforts. We post that through our different social media outlets, through our newsletter. And so that's been something inspiring for me coming from DC and working mostly in policy to see that happening as well. So I think there's a little bit of something for everyone. There's a lot of programs for parents that have queer youth. So there's a lot of support in that regard. There's a faith alliance, which is great. Something I've really loved about my work, both in DC and here, is that faith also brings a form of community. And I think what's been incredible to see is that it's affirming faith leaders that are friendly to the LGBTQ community and don't tolerate any hate or unacceptance. And so that's been something to see as well, that faith leaders are a part of this work through our Faith Alliance as well. And then one other thing that I've really appreciated is the health clinic, just expanding on that a little more. It only broke ground about 2 years ago, and it's been incredible to see the uptake, folks feeling safe and comfortable. It's one thing to go into a doctor's office where you're uncertain, you're not sure, how they're going to perceive you, especially if you're in the queer community. And so to be able to get testing, to be able to go somewhere where you won't be judged, you won't worry about your answers and feel just different. It's been incredible to see that uptake. And so that health clinic has changed the lives of so many. And I've really appreciated seeing that grow and seeing folks really utilize it. So just to bring it home, I would say that there's something for everyone. And I've been so impressed to see the depth of the programming, the involvement from all ages, especially the youth, for older adults, and in between. So we definitely don't want to leave anyone out. And so I've really loved that there's such intentionality when it comes to programming for all different demographics and meeting them where they are, especially. So
yeah, that's amazing. No, I think you touched on some amazing programs there too. There's a few that I want to highlight as just some things that been personally relevant to me. One little quick story is that I was on a focus group a couple of, I guess, months ago, where it was talking about the importance of like LGBT testing centers, like access in like our community, like in rural communities or in urban communities. And so I kind of talked about my experience like being away in college in like a more rural community, but then the other person on that call, we both were just like praising the Equality Center in so many ways, just because it was like we didn't even need to question like our access, because the Equality Center is down the road from us. We both work downtown. It was our beacon for all of those things that kind of just really, like you mentioned, testing the safe, like just the importance of health for queer folks is so important. I mean, we can't not forget our legacy of this and the history of the LGBT community, and why prevention, why testing is so important. The AIDS crisis in the 80s and even prior to that, like this is a part of our history, and I really appreciate and so commend the Equality Center for really doubling down on that effort, and making it a safe space for queer people in this community. So huge shout out to you guys for that, and just know that work is being recognized. And then additionally, this is a little personal in the sense that I have been like craving this type of like outlet for so long, but I really appreciate, I don't know if you had anything to do with it, but I really appreciated the drag race viewing parties that you guys have had. Oh my gosh, like it has frustrated me so much. Like I've been in other cities and gone to drag race viewing parties, and like they're popping, they're the place to be. It's like literally it's our gay sports. Like
yes.
it's the meeting of the minds. It just creates this environment that I so love around something that is like a huge pinnacle in the community. And the Equality Center is the first place in Tulsa that hosted those events. And so it makes me look a little questionably at some of the other places in town that aren't hosting those events, but it also just makes me commend you guys even more for taking that step. So huge shout out to y'all for that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that. See, that's one thing I really appreciated was answering, what folks were wanting, what they needed, community building. And it doesn't always have to be so serious or so, topical, just to be able to enjoy and watch something together. As you said, our sports. I love that. I heard so many good things about it, and I'm excited to see how we can continue the momentum there, continue to answer that call. So I've really loved the evolution of the programming too. We actually do drag bingo as well that raises money for Pride, and so that's starting back up later this month, just in an effort to get ready for next year. So that's a super fun time as well that incorporates everything we love to do. So it's just something I've loved seeing, and I appreciate your response there too, because we want to keep doing programming that people enjoy. So.
Oh yeah, and the current Drag Race universe, we could have a viewing party every other night because there's a new franchise starting. There's we just finished Drag Race Philippines. We're on Drag Race UK Series 4, and from what I know, the Drag Race fans, they literally watch it all. Like
Oh yeah,
I'm just as guilty. I tune in every night, so we could be there every day if you wanted us to.
I know. I feel like I don't. Yeah, I feel like we could just have a 24-hour running loop of all the episodes ever, and we never have to leave the building. So.
Exactly. So kind of to round us out, this has been an amazing discussion. I thank you so much for this. Kind of what are some ways that Tulsans can get involved, or even community members beyond Tulsa can get involved with the Equality Center? I know there's probably oodles of work to be done, volunteering. What are some ways that people can get involved?
Yeah, no, so another part of my work in membership coordination is working on engagement of, local community as well as folks that just want to invest in the work we're doing. So something that's been super inspiring to see is our monthly giving really grow, as well as one-time discretionary gifts that really have helped in a time of COVID, in a time of uncertainty politically, really to help bolster our programming, ensure that it happens. It's incredibly vital, and our donors have made that possible. So something really exciting that I wanted to share is that, we've had a lot of local support, which has been incredible. But then beyond Tulsa, it's been really inspiring to see different communities that we've worked with, different peers that I know from across the country that have seen and been excited, fellow queer folks in the bigger cities that have wanted to pay it forward and really invest in Tulsa. So it's been really exciting to see them donate monthly, to see them, give what they can. And so that's been such a cool element beyond Tulsa to see folks investing in our work. And then in Tulsa, so many local folks giving back their time via volunteering. That is something needed now more than ever as we gear up for 2023 events. And so that you can find more information on our website about volunteering as well. And then one other thing I wanted to mention for our donors is that Tulsa Remote folks have been incredibly generous as well, as they invest in the community, as they go beyond just coming here. They really have started to get go that second step. And so it's been great to work with folks on sustaining giving and really supporting and bolstering the work that OKEQ is doing. And I would say beyond that, just showing up. I think we always forget sometimes that the act of showing up can mean more than anything. Just being present at the drag race events, for example, and just sharing with your friends, being active on socials, promoting what we're doing. It's one thing to see an event pop up and say that'd be nice to go to, but it's another to really put that effort in and show up. I think it's needed now more than ever. We want to keep doing this programming, but need the support for it. So I would say those are a couple of different ways to come together. But again, I've just been so inspired by how active folks are in the community and how excited they are for all that we're doing. And so I think just that increase will lead to even more of an impact.
Oh, no, I so agree, and want to echo all of those things. One thing that I would add is just and this is more of a challenge for me and anyone else that might be navigating these spaces with the intention of, I love what you said about like showing up and making a friend. Those are the two challenges that I'm okay at showing up. I am not the greatest at making a friend, like putting myself out there. It's something that I shy away from. And, gay people can be intimidating sometimes, but I've got to get over that because they're not going to bite, or we don't bite too hard. So we just got to just put myself out there and don't be scared to make a friend, because I think that there's so many people that want that community, and you never know, you never know where you're going to meet someone, and you never know how you're going to meet them either. So I would just put that out there as well. Luke, thank you so much for this discussion. This has been amazing. If anyone's interested in getting in touch with you, or, questions about some of the stuff we've talked about, what's a good way to stay connected with you?
Yeah, so a lot of the stuff we talked about, the Alliance, just the different programs, are on okq.org. And then also, if folks want to email me, my information is also on the website. And I'm happy to discuss, have conversations. Again, I love getting invested and involved in the community we're doing. And I also want to thank you, Evan, that we can even have the space to have this conversation is something I don't want to take for granted, that we can highlight all of this, queer innovation and excitement. And so it's kind of special that we can even, have that space. And I'm excited for folks' reaction and to, share all the good things that are going on.
Yes, we had a gay old time. We're going to continue having a gay old time. And I have a gay old time every week that we recorded, or every time we do an episode. There's always a little something gay going on. So we're keeping that going. Thank you so much for being on this episode of Grow With Us. I really appreciate it. For listeners of Grow With Us looking for new opportunities, please join our talent network to stay in touch with our featured jobs and opportunities at InTulsa, and visit talent.intulsa.com. That's talent.intulsa.com. By joining our talent network, you will get access to our newsletter where you can stay up to date with our latest career advice, featured opportunities with InTulsa partner companies, and our placement success stories. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify to be notified when more episodes of Grow With Us are released. Let us know what you think about how we're doing by rating and reviewing. Huge thank you to our editors at Rant9 Production and Jesse Ulrich. This has been Grow With Us.